Now we're going to talk about the mind control. If you talk or listen to someone in the CIA, sometimes you will hear them say, well, we tried behavioral modification, but it only works in such a percentage of the cases. And we tried this method of mind control, but it only works in a small percentage of the cases. And we tried this, and they make it appear like they've discarded all of these. The truth is if you make a group package, by the time you've gone through all these many different types of mind control, you create something that totally locks the person into your control. When they begin with a child, they start traumatizing it. The human mind is like a computer in that if you got all of the computers in the world and put them together, then in some functions the human mind would outstrip it. In order to make computers functional, they had to learn how to section off memory. The Illuminati learned centuries ago how to section off memory within the human mind. And it's done with amnesia walls. And the amnesia walls are built by trauma. Let's say you're in war and your buddy gets killed and it's a trauma to you. You may take and build amnesia walls around that particular event in your mind. That's called post-traumatic stress syndrome. The Illuminati learned this trick, and they traumatize a person until they shatter their mind into thousands upon thousands of disassociated states. Okay, it's like taking a mirror and throwing it against the ground and breaking it into thousands of pieces. And then they know how to go in and find each of those little pieces, and with that little disassociated part of mind, memory, they through programming build that each piece into what they want. Perhaps they want that piece to be a personality. Then they will give that piece of the mind an identity, a history, a job, and the full works. And they'll also attach a hypnotic cue that they can pull that piece of mind, that alter, that personality, they're called alters or personalities, so that they can pull that to the front of the mind. Then they build very complex alter systems. My co-author here, her mind was shattered 30,000 ways, and then to build an alter system, the front of her alter system had 13 by 13 grid, which is 169 personalities. And then there were 13 sections of that. And all of these have amnesia walls between them, and all have hypnotic cues attached to pull them to the mind. That's just a small part of her system. There are many hidden worlds, as she had two programmers competing against each other for control of her and putting in hidden worlds. And basically what you have with these people is they've made a mess of their minds, they've shattered them into many pieces. If you're comparing this to a store, you've got a nice storefront, but if you go out behind the store, there's a lot of garbage out there and a big mess. They like to create the best fronts for these systems of alters. They like to hide what they're doing. They like to they like to create a personality or several personalities to hold the body that have the most legitimate, the best front that they can imagine. So I like to ask audiences, what do you think the favorite occupation is for men in the Illuminati? And very oftentimes they say things like judges, lawyers, politicians. No, people, the favorite occupation is being Christian clergymen, because that's the best front. In fact, her father was a Christian clergyman. He was also Leo Wheeler, a programmer. This came in color from Bethesda, which is one of the places that they program with. And what this is showing here, although in this copy it's black and white, is that the mind of a multiple personality is different than someone who doesn't have MPD. If I was to act like a different person and they took a PT scan of my brain, it would look the same every time. But when they switch personalities, they switch alters, the brain PT scans are vastly different, thus proving that their brains are not the same. They do other things to these people too, like they want to get a photographic memory. You electronically scar the brain stem, and that creates in the child a photographic memory before you then begin dividing their personalities, and you get a system of multiple personalities with photographic memories. MPD has recently been renamed DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder. I sat and watched them do this mind control with many people right in front of unsuspecting people. They say the codes, they program people and everything, and the people around them don't even know what's going on. Once you get the programming set into a person, by the time they're a teenager, then in 15 minutes in a back room, you can program them for a mission. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time. Perhaps somebody goes into a restroom, perhaps somebody gets a phone call or something like this, and you can program them very quickly to do something. This is how to make the perfect spy or the perfect assassin. Where would be the perfect front for an assassin? The group that's most widely known, publicized as being a pacifist group, are the Amish. Remember, the Amish were required to send their boys to do alternative service during the various wars, and some of them did that in mental hospitals where they do this mind control programming. And so we would trigger them somehow on a subconscious level for the boy to go on a trip to visit his Freundschaft, his relatives in another state. And as he's traveling, say for instance, maybe he comes on the bus to a stop, and he gets off and goes into the restroom, and he's programmed to go through a series of things which just click him into his assassination altar, and he goes out and carries out his mission, his assassination. Then he gets on the bus, goes and visits his relatives, and comes back. All he knows that he's done is he's visited his relatives. There's a thing called backup amnesia. You forget that you forgot. He doesn't even realize that he's lost time. Now you know what's happening with all these people that are going in and shooting up things and turning the guns on themselves. These are mind-controlled people. Unfortunately, we have about 2 million. That's a conservative estimate. About 2 million Americans are under this total mind control. People, everything that you thought you knew about people is obsolete. And this is very difficult for us to grasp. Everything that we have been using to judge other people has been obsolete, even before we were born. This programming has a very sophisticated way of making people have a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde effect. And they don't even know that they're controlled. It's undetectable even to the person who's under the mind control. I have a friend who was a Christian minister. He had Collins blood and Rothschild blood in him, and then he was adopted into a Russell family to hide his lineages. And then he finds out that there's a dark side to him that's totally different. That's part of the Illuminati and their horrific rituals. Some people, when they're faced with this, go into denial about what's going on in their life. Here I am at one of the places they do a lot of programming, the Presidio. And this is real close to Presidio, Palace of Fine Arts, where the Illuminati do rituals. If you know some of the leadership of the 6th Army, quite a number of Satanists in their officer corps, including this fellow here, Michael Aquino, who's the son of Betty Ford, and he's the head of the Church of Set, and he has a number of his high priests in his Church of Set who are also part of the 6th Army. I think about a dozen of them are high up in military intelligence with high security clearances. They do a lot of mind control in the Temple of Set. This is another place that they do programming. This is in the United Kingdom, Tavistock Clinic.